Every sunny day. I need my Starburst. We had these Starburst minis. Absolute game changer. Might be considerate to brush my eyebrows at least a little bit.
I'm ready. Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel again. Nice to see you nice. For anyone who didn't see my last video, my name is Emily and I am a makeup artist, and I've started up this little YouTube channel for all of my friends and family who ask questions about makeup all the time, and they fill up my inbox full of questions. So yeah, I thought I'd make some videos so that I could help you all out. Today I asked over on my Insta poll what you wanted to see, but it's so ridiculously hot outside. So that's what this is going to be, my foolproof summer glam. It does not fail me in the hot weather when I'm sweating like an oath. It's also really nice and glowy, so just because it's sweat proof doesn't mean you have to look completely matte and kind of caked on. So let's just get into it. Stop rounding. Shut up, Emily. So I'm going to start with a little kind of bronze goddessy style eye. If you're not interested in the eyeshadow and you're more interested in the skin, then I will timestamp it in my description box so that you can skip straight to the skin. Okay, so my eyes are primed in the usual way. Pop concealer all over and blend out with a flat brush and a sponge. Now I'm going to take the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette and I'm going to take the shade Eden and Amber mixed together on a Morphe M433, and I'm going to pop this in as my transition shade. So when I look down into my mirror, the way I always talk about that kind of little shadow, I'm going to take circular motions and just put that shadow in really messily. It's just kind of a warm shade that we call the transition, and what the transition does is just helps us to blend all of the other shadows into them. When you're blending eyeshadows, if you have to blend a colour into a skin tone shade, so just a colour into a concealer, it can be quite tricky and definitely harder than if you just pop down a quick transition shade beforehand. Okay, now I'm just taking the shade Amber on its own with the Morphe M456, and I'm just going to pop that in my outer V. Now, if you're not sure where the outer V is, what that basically means is, again, when you look down into your mirror and you see where your crease is, there's a little area, so it will be diagonal from your lower lash line, and then it kind of curves back round into the crease, and that's what we call the outer V. Obviously it's a V shape, so it's around this area usually. This look is just a quick kind of chuck it on bronze goddessy type eyeshadow, so it's not gonna be really structured and really cut. So as long as you're just kind of circling this on, it's got a nice amount of pigment, and use your little circular techniques that I always encourage you to do, then it will just give that really kind of blended out, pretty, warm, bronzy eye. Always apply your shadow in layers, so add a small amount of pigment and then blend that out, and then add a little bit more and then blend that out. That will help you to not kind of lose control of the eyeshadow, especially with eyeliner. It happens all the time. You do a line and then it just, by the end of it, your whole eye is eyeliner. If you use a little bit of pigment at a time, that will help control that.
I won't lie to you, most of my brushes are dirty, so don't judge me.
Okay, now I'm taking a MAC 239 and the Neffertiti shade, which is a gold kind of glittery shade in the palette, and I'm just going to take that and pat it all onto my lid. So I haven't cut my crease. Like I said earlier, I want this to kind of be an effortless, quick whiz through everyday kind of eyeshadow. But yeah, this is a really pretty gold colour, and it's got beautiful little flecks of gold glitter in it as well. Again, I keep referring to this little shadow when you look down into your mirror, because I found that is the best way to teach people kind of the anatomy of the eye and where you're putting your colours. But when you look down and you see that shadow, you basically don't want the lid colour to ever go higher than that shadow, because what that will do is kind of emphasise any folds. So make sure you're keeping it on the mobile lid. I have slightly wet my brush with the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer Water, but I don't wet it too much because I don't want it to become sort of like a liquid shadow. I want it to keep this consistency where I can get those little glitter flecks throughout. Okay, I'm just taking the same 239, because why not, and just taking some of my Fenty Kilowatt highlighter and popping that in the inner corner, and then I'm also going to just stamp a little bit of that in the very middle of the eyelid, and it will just kind of add a little bit of dimension to the lid and draw attention to the centre of the eye, which makes the eye look bigger.
I always say the eye like I'm an actual doctor. I literally just put colour on my eyelid, that's all I do.
It kind of gives that like wet look to the eyeshadow. It's really, I really like this little tip. Okay, to kind of finish things off for this quick little eye, I'm going to take the colour Oud, or is it Ode? I don't really know. And I'm just going to take that on a pencil brush, and I'm going to really messily push that along the lash line. And that's going to create a little bit of like a messy liner look. Add a little bit of definition to the lashes, which will make them look fuller. Also, if you wear false lashes, this helps because you've sort of got a bit of a guideline as to where they're going to sit. As always, take your little weight and just go underneath the eye. Okay, then I'm just going to quickly throw on my lashes and my mascara, just really quickly off camera, and then I'll come back to you and we can really focus on that kind of wet look bronze goddess skin. Okay, lashes are on. Let's do this. So in my opinion, step one for kind of properly glossy, beautiful skin that's sweat proof but also sun-kissed and gorgeous is your skincare. So I pretty much every day during this lockdown have been doing masks or exfoliating or some sort of skincare that is going to help with the condition of my skin. But right now I'm just applying some of the Dermalogica water gel. It's a moisturiser, it's got aloe vera and a lot of water in it. The other one is aloe water from L'Oreal, that is beautiful. It's going to help to keep your skin hydrated in the hot weather. Make sure also that you're applying SPF if you're going to be sitting out in the sun all day.
It's alright, Carl, don't worry. I'll wait. No, seriously, I will. I'll wait.
So what I feel to be the most complicated part of a kind of summer look is you want to look glossy. You don't want to look like or feel like you've got a hell of a lot of makeup on, but you also want it to be sweat proof. So it's like that combat of, do I want it really matte so that it stays on, or do I want it really dewy so that it feels like I've got nothing on my skin? So here is a little tip for anyone who gets excess oils on the skin, but also really good in hot weather. So I'm going to take a little bit of my Laura Mercier translucent powder, and with no product on my face other than my moisturiser, I'm just going to go over the areas that I tend to get a lot of oil throughout the day, or areas that will be prone to sweating. So I'll put some on my forehead, obviously on the tip of your nose. Technique to this is it being a really light veil of powder. Don't be baking your face before you put anything else on it. This is a really light little veil of powder. That is going to act as an extra barrier against that sweat interrupting your makeup throughout the day. Okay, so now we can go and apply our foundation as usual, but how I like to really get that like sun-kissed, gorgeous, glowy skin is take a thin foundation with a good coverage. So I'm using the Maybelline Fit Me in 250, and then my absolute favourite thing to do is grab yourself a loose highlighter. This one is the Nubian by Juvias Place in Neffertiti, and I'll add that to my foundation, mix it all in and apply it to the face, and that powder will mattify the foundation just slightly, and the matter the foundation is, the more it's going to stay on. But while it's mattifying it also adds those highlighted little pearlescent pigments to the foundation, which make the skin look glowy and glossy.
Sirens.
Now, how much of that you apply is kind of down to you, and also depending on your skin colour will obviously depend on the shade of pigment that you decide to use. Vanilla pigment from MAC was a big one that we used to use, and if you're really into that kind of natural look or you're on holiday, what you can actually do is add one of these pigments into one of your water-based moisturisers in the morning, and that will give your skin that like glossy sun-kissed look without even having anything on your skin. So again, as always, I always say apply the foundation with a flat brush going in the direction of peach fuzz growth on your face, and go in and pat that in. This is literally like the most unreal tip, adding a pigment to your foundation for getting that beautiful glossy skin. If you don't have a powder highlighter, don't fret either. You can actually scrape off some eyeshadow from an eyeshadow palette.
That's called Neffertiti as well.
If I just took some of this Neffertiti shade and I took a tweezer and just scraped some of that into my foundation shade, that would work exactly the same as a loose pigment or eyeshadow pigment. Now, the good thing about this tip is that you can also add it into cream bronzers or concealers. So I'm going to take a cream contour shade, and this is the Revolution Concealer in shade C15. And then I'll just take my foundation shade and just buff that out, and it will add a natural kind of contour to the skin. What I'm thinking about doing, because I think it might be beneficial, is a little series of makeup videos where I do an all about X, Y and Z, so that if you ever watch something and you think, what on earth is she doing, or why is she putting that there, you have somewhere that you can go and reference and kind of see the steps that I take. There's certain techniques that I don't actually adapt in my own makeup routine, but I obviously know how to do, and I sometimes use them in freelancing because it works better on other people's skin than it does mine. So I think that might be beneficial to kind of do that all about series. So if that's something that you would be interested in, then please do let me know or comment down below, because I think that might be a good way to kind of teach some of the new techniques. Now, I wouldn't usually cream contour my skin, but the reason that I'm doing it today for this kind of sweat proof makeup is the more kind of small layers that you can add, the easier the makeup is going to stay on. It's kind of the same principle as with wedding makeup, in that you add really small layers of makeup, but you add maybe sometimes 5 or 6 layers of foundation, because the more layers that you apply, the less likely the makeup is to come off. So you kind of add thin layers, but you add lots of them, and that gives the most grip on the makeup, and also probably the most perfect finish as well. Okay, now I'm just going to go beneath the eye with the Collection Concealer in shade 0. Like I always say, I go on the cheekbone as opposed to directly beneath the eye. Okay, now we're going to go in and set that cream contour. So I'm actually just going to keep with the Huda Beauty palette, and I'm just going to take the shade Blazing.
For anyone who doesn't know, I will say it again.
I use orange to warm up my face, orange shadow as opposed to bronzer. I don't find that bronzers run warm enough for me, and I like to really warm this skin up, sister. But remember, this is kind of like a sun-kissed glam, so don't be scared of putting this bronzer in more areas than you would usually go for. A nice thing to do as well, because it adds a kind of natural tan to the skin, is to actually run a bronzer over your nose and a little bit over the tops of the cheeks. It gives that kind of like rosy, oh, we've just been out in the sun today, that kind of vibe.
Hello, they're not called squishies, they're called squishies.
You look beautiful.
Thank you.
No done. Okay, now I'm going to take my blush. This is the NYX Cinnamon Blush. By the way, the brush that I'm using to apply this is the Morphe M405. That's what I used for my bronzer as well, and I'm just going to apply that probably a little bit more liberally than I would usually apply a blush.
When did I become so popular? No one ever texts me.
And then, as always, I like to apply anywhere that I applied the bronzer, I like to apply the blush as well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is give my face a liberal spray with the Smashbox So Chill Coconut Photo Finish Primer Water.
Christ, that was a long title, wasn't it? I just didn't want to stop saying that.
Now, when the spray is almost dry, not quite but almost, take that translucent powder again in very small amounts, and pat that back over the areas that you know are prone to sweating or are prone to oils. What this does is it kind of locks the primer water into the skin like before it's kind of fully set down, which kind of keeps it working throughout the whole day.
That is actually such a good tip, and if people don't use that, you're actually really silly.
And then to highlight, is kind of standard protocol that you would go in and use whatever pigment you use to add into your foundation. So I'm going to use the Neffertiti shade from Juvias Place. And I'm going to take the Morphe M441. So just give it 1 or 2 sprays on either side.
Don't be scared of that highlighter mist thing, get it on.
I like to do my little dot of highlighter on my cheek, tap off some of the excess, and then just push it forward onto your cheekbone. Now this shade is straight up nearly gold. It's so nice. But on my skin tone, I do just need a tiny bit more of a kind of white shade. So I'm just adding in a very small amount of the Kilowatt highlighter from Fenty, and then repeat on the other side. I also like to pop a tiny bit of the highlighter onto my forehead, just to give that kind of set out in the sun vibe, and then always highlighter on the Cupid's bow, and just a little bit on my nose.
Sometimes I think that there is a spirit that when I think, right, I need to pick up that product or that brush or that anything, and then I want it and I look for it and I can't find it, and then literally like in 1 second that spirit will return that brush and it will be like in my hand or something. I swear, it happens to me all the time.
And now just do one more layer of the setting spray and powder combination. Again, I won't lie, we do it in layers. It's what works. Okay, I'm just going to quickly run along and add some of that Eden and Amber shade underneath my eye. And then I'm going to take Neffertiti that I took on the lid. And then I'm just grabbing a flat brush and taking Oud, which was the colour that we used to sort of softly line the eye. And I'm just patting that into my waterline. Okay, I'm just very quickly going to chuck on my brows are crazy, I've just seen them. I'm going to very quickly chuck on my brows, some Lower Lash mascara and a lip. And then I'm done. And there we go. No part of my skin looks overly matte, even though to touch, it's fully matte and transfer proof. And cheap. That foundation is from Superdrug. So yes, that is the fully complete and finished look. There's some proper handy little tips in there on how to keep your makeup on in this hot weather. And what I'm going to do now is go and sunbathe for a little while, and then I will come back and conclude out the video. Focus. Okay, so I am back. Let me see. So it's been a good 3.5 hours, or 3 hours and 22 minutes to be precise. I went outside, sat in the garden for a little while, and then I went out walking and delivering some fudge, because my mum owns a fudge company. I will link it down below if you're interested in fudge. But yeah, if anything, the hair's taken the big beating. My face, you know, there are a little few areas where my oils are slightly starting to peek through, but if anything, it's just still as luminous as before. There were a couple of times where I actually dabbed a little bit of sweat off my forehead, so I thought, oh, that'll be a true test as to whether this is sweat proof, and we're all good. There's no little patchy areas. I'll zoom in. Okay, there we go. I did just literally a minute ago reapply my lipstick because I ate my dinner. So I've reapplied that onto my lips. But other than that, I have not touched my face at all. As always, I could probably do with just blotting a tiny bit around these areas of my nose. But other than that, yeah, all good. So that is my sweat-proof full glam summer makeup. I hope you all enjoyed it and you learned how to keep your makeup on during these boiling hot times for as long as they're here for.
If you live in Essex, I mean, if you live anywhere, if you live in a hot place all the time, I mean, you can use these all year round. But we get the rain, so we panic when it's not raining and we need sweat-proof makeup.
But yeah, if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, then feel free to check the description box. I'll leave my Instagram handle down there. And if you like this video and want to see more from me, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to aim to get at least 2 videos out a week, so probably on a Sunday and a Wednesday, so we're roughly, you know, halfway through the week. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your days in the sunshine, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.